Eliminate opposition, sow division within, and keep our allies distracted. Those are the 3 steps that they're taking, and it looks like we're being led straight for war. So first, more news about the second Trump assassination as people are asking the important questions about the gunman Ryan Ruth.
Federal agents entered Ryan Ruth's home in Ka'ava, Hawaii, executing court-authorized search warrants, trying to piece together how a man described as delusional, obsessed with national and global politics, would cross the ocean and the continental U.S. and allegedly attempt to kill a former president. Neighbors who saw Ruth just weeks ago didn't see immediate signs.
Never said a word. Nothing. No Trump, no nothing. Never raised his voice, never seen him mad.
But Ruth's criminal history does reveal a decades-long history with law enforcement, dating back to the late 1990s. In April 2002, Ruth was arrested and later convicted for possessing an explosive, described in court records as a binary explosive device with a 10-inch detonation cord and a blasting cap.
I knew who he was.
Later in 2002, retired Greensboro Police Sergeant Tracy Falk pulled Ruth over. He fled and barricaded himself inside his business.
Because I knew his history with guns or different weapons, I decided not to follow him in, and we set up a perimeter. We called out special response, and then we were eventually able to get him out of the house.
About 6 years ago, Ruth moved to Hawaii and picked up steam on social media, taking on small and large causes like the war in Ukraine, even tweeting at Ukraine's president, "I will fly from America and fight with you." Ruth kept that pledge to travel there. With the help of a GoFundMe, he landed in Ukraine in April 2022.
Putin is a terrorist, and he needs to be ended.
Chelsea Walsh, a nurse, met Ruth in Kyiv at one of those protests.
He was very delusional, but he acted on his delusions. He was dangerous.
Walsh found Ruth's behavior so alarming that she reported his name to Customs and Border Patrol when she returned to the U.S. in 2022 and listed Ruth as the most concerning American she met in Ukraine.
And I told him that out of everyone on that list, Ryan Ruth, that lived in Hawaii, was the number 1 person to watch because he was a ticking time bomb.
Now, isn't that the question? How the heck did this ticking time bomb of a man end up in those bushes just a few yards from former President Donald Trump? Was he placed there to eliminate the opposition, perhaps? And speaking of enemy plants, there's House Speaker Mike Johnson who disobeyed Donald Trump's orders and dropped the SAVE Act, which would have actually prevented non-citizens and illegal immigrants from voting. He talks about it here.
Well, everybody, you just watched the legislative process play out. The play that we ran tonight was the right play. It's the right fight for the American people. It's the one that they demand and deserve. I've made it very clear over the last couple of weeks, we have 2 very important objectives right now. Congress has an obligation to fund the government, and Congress has an obligation to ensure that our elections are secure and fair and free. And this vote tonight would have accomplished both. I'm very disappointed that it didn't pass. I want to note that every Democrat except 3 went on record once again for the second time voting against election security. What the SAVE Act would have accomplished, as everyone knows, is to ensure that illegals and non-citizens cannot vote in the upcoming election. Right now, we have no mechanism for the states to require proof of citizenship before they register to vote. That is a serious problem. It is about an 88% issue in polling across the country, and it is not partisan. But we missed that. We ran the play. It was the best play. It was the right one. And so now we go back to the playbook, we'll draw up another play, and we'll come up with a solution. I'm already talking to colleagues about their many ideas. We have time to fix the situation, and we'll get right to it. I'm disappointed. I know this was the right thing to do, and I think the American people are going to let a lot of the folks that voted no tonight hear their concerns about it. So stay posted. Stay posted.
He says that he's disappointed that it didn't get to pass. So why did he drop it in the first place? He sounds like it was out of his control. Isn't he the House Speaker who decides on these things? Hey, just asking the important questions, you guys, because people are already saying protect Donald Trump and get rid of Mike Johnson. He's a rhino. But yeah, if all of this weren't enough, there's the oddly coincidental news of our ally Israel choosing to now, of all times, invade Lebanon. Here's actual Israel military tanks gathering in the southern Lebanon border. Now you gotta wonder, guys, Israel's already in a war with Hamas. Why start a new one and engage in a war on two fronts? Unless someone told them to. Maybe someone in the White House who needed a distraction threatened Netanyahu that if he doesn't do this, they're gonna go ahead and pull US funding from Israel. Just something to think about, you guys, you know what I'm saying? Now I doubt that they're going to be putting American soldiers anywhere near this mess, especially now with the US participation in foreign matters being such a hot button issue in the elections. You know what I mean? Plus, we don't need our soldiers back home here in America to go after the drug cartels and gangs that have taken over their cities. We should definitely protect and defend America first. Now, starting with our own former president, Donald Trump, don't believe what the mainstream media and Secret Service are saying. Our former commander-in-chief is still in danger. As long as he's going up against the current administration, we have to keep an eye on him. There have already been 2 assassination attempts, technically maybe 3 or 4 if you count all of these little odd incidents, but there have been 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump's life, and with this race in his favor, I doubt that this will be the last. In fact, far-right Representative Matt Gaetz, he recently claimed that at least 5 known assassin teams are hunting former President Donald Trump. According to Gaetz' statement posted on his congressional website, we do not have enough force protection to support President Trump that we ought to have, given the threat environment. The congressman cited the times when resources have been pulled off the Trump detail for the Jill Biden detail or for the John Bolton detail. So he said that they're going to question whether or not that was sound given what they knew about the efforts to kill Trump. Now, this next part is where it gets really hair-raising, guys. So Matt Gaetz, he claimed to have obtained the knowledge of the Trump assassination teams from a senior Department of Homeland Security official. He said 2 of the teams are domestic, but 3 are operated internationally. He mentioned Iranians, Ukraine, and Pakistan, and that he believes there is insufficient scrutiny to stop the assassination teams from operating out in the open. I mean, just look at the second mess up that they did with Trump gunman Ryan Ruth. Prosecutors say that Ruth was in the area of Trump's golf course and the former president's Mar-a-Lago residence across multiple days in the month before that he was arrested, and had a Google search of how to travel from Florida to Mexico in one of his phones. You know what else he had? He had handwritten dates and venues where Donald Trump has or was expected to appear in the lead up to the 2024 presidential election. Now, the question is, how in the heck did he get this schedule, guys? Now, let me tell you, the rabbit hole just goes on and on and on. Prosecutors wrote that Ruth had traveled to West Palm Beach from North Carolina on August 14th. Cell phone records show him near Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence and the golf course multiple days and times between August 18th and September 15th, the day that he was arrested. While searching Ruth's car, agents found 6 cell phones, one of which included a Google search for how to travel from Palm Beach County to Mexico. The agents also found 12 pairs of gloves, a Hawaii driver's license in the defendant's name, passport in the defendant's name. And did you guys see where this guy's been? His recent background included a stint in the Ukraine where he failed getting recruited to fight Russia. One of the people that met him there was that nurse in the video that described him as a ticking time bomb. Sure enough, there were signs. In online posts mostly about US politics and global events, Ruth said he voted for Donald Trump in 2016, but that the president had become a disappointment, adding that he will be glad when he's gone. Ruth, in a self-published book, also told the county of Iran, "You are free to assassinate Trump." You know how close this mentally unstable and highly dangerous man got to the former president? According to the court filings, Ruth's position was directly in line with the very next hole from where Donald Trump was golfing. Meanwhile, Donald Trump was on the 5th hole. A Secret Service agent was clearing the area for the 6th hole, riding a golf cart along the fence, which drew a boundary between the course and a major road on the other side. When clearing the area, the agent spotted the partially obscure face of a man in the brush along the fence line. Now again, guys, don't think Ruth will be the last one. A witness told investigators that Ruth had dropped off a box at his home months before, which contained ammunition, a metal pipe, miscellaneous building materials, tools, 4 phones, and various letters. When news of the second Trump assassination attempt got out, the witness opened the box again and found a letter addressed to the world. He said, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and gave it all the gumption I could muster. It is up to you now to finish the job, and I will offer $150,000 to whomever can complete the job." Now, it also mentioned how former President Donald Trump ended relations with Iran like a child, and now the Middle East has unraveled. Now, just imagine how many of these Ryan Ruth dropped off. Now, I don't want to think how many more people he was able to radicalize against the former president. But hey, we take our cue from Donald Trump himself, and he's not backing down from the fight. So his supporters continue to stand by Donald Trump, who always puts America before himself. Guys, hit the like button and a quick yes if you're picking up what I'm putting down here for you guys. And hey guys, don't be a stranger, okay? Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for more updates like this one. We are not done yet either, so don't go anywhere. So continuing the next part of the demolition job that they're trying to do on Donald Trump, we have House Speaker Mike Johnson, who basically tanked the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, or SAVE Act, which would require proof of citizenship in the voter registration process. You see, Trump publicly urged Republicans to allow a government shutdown if they're unable to include the SAVE Act in the government funding bill. So, Mike Johnson letting this happen was basically a stab in the back of Donald Trump. In fact, several conservative figures have spoken out against Johnson for this move, basically saying he caved and calling him a rhino or Republican in name only. Disappointment. Media personality Nick Sorter said that Johnson's weak, spineless, and owned by the Democrats, and that the Biden-Harris regime is deeply opposed to any election integrity bills, so Johnson won't bother pushing back against them. MAGA activist Laura Loomer, who has spoken out against Johnson in the past, said she was right about the GOP failing to protect our elections. No SAVE Act. Now, Mike Johnson may be making a bad name for Republicans, but Trump isn't. In fact, his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, recently shared details of Donald Trump's plans to stop Ukraine and Russia. His running mate was recently more forthcoming. He said Donald Trump would start negotiations with the Kremlin, Ukraine, and European stakeholders if he wins the election with an eye toward achieving a peaceful settlement. J.D. Vance also mentioned the current line of demarcation between Russia and Ukraine becoming a demilitarized zone, and that Ukraine retains its independent sovereignty. Russia gets the guarantee of neutrality from the Ukraine. It doesn't join NATO. It doesn't join some of these allied institutions. According to the Republican VP candidate, that is what the deal is ultimately going to look something like. And as for helping Ukraine take control of Crimea, which Russia annexed after an offensive in 2014, J.D. Vance made his answer pretty simple. How many American lives would it cost to do that? And if the answer is more than zero, then he's out. But the senator said that he believes that Donald Trump could reach a deal swiftly because they're scared of him in Russia and they're worried about him in Europe because they know he actually means what he says. Now, at this point, guys, we know that it's either Joe Biden or Kamala Harris that's essentially signing off to more money and weapons to Ukraine. And him going after Donald Trump pretty much just kind of like shows his loyalty to the Democratic elite. In fact, he even went on tour of the weapons that his country will be using against Russia, a move that drew sharp criticism from many Republicans. Criticism that has also been targeted at Governor Josh Shapiro. Check this out.
Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is getting slammed for recently visiting a military facility in Scranton with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Shapiro caught a lot of flack for signing an artillery shell after the visit. He posted this moment on X, captioning, quote, "We must all do our part in the fight for freedom, from the workers in Scranton who make Pennsylvania the arsenal of democracy to the brave Ukrainian soldiers protecting their country. We stand with Ukraine in their just defense of their homeland in the face of Russian aggression."
GOP Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene blasted Shapiro, posting on X, quote, "I am 100% against this, and so are most Americans. The U.S. is funding the Ukraine government at $1 billion per month to keep it running and funding most of the war by providing weapons, ammo, and equipment. The U.S. should be negotiating peace, not fueling war." Managing editor of the left-leaning outlet The Gray Zone posted, quote, "When did all our politicians start treating weapons of war like sports memorabilia? Why do they find killing people so amusing?" Greg Price, a frequent critic of the administration, took aim at Zelensky, posting, quote, "Zelensky is now touring ammunition factories in Pennsylvania and attacking President Trump and J.D. Vance in American media outlets. A foreign leader is essentially campaigning for Harris on American soil."
Now think about that for a second, guys. This guy is a foreigner. Yes, he's the president of Ukraine, but that doesn't give him the right to be meddling up in our politics. You know what I'm saying? And it's very clear that he's hoping that Kamala Harris wins this year's election. The problem for Zelensky is that it's probable that Donald Trump is winning this year.
The vice president suggested today that your strategy with Ukraine amounts to surrender to Russia. How do you respond to that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And it's not a surrender. What my strategy is to save lives. I want to save lives. Millions of people are dead. Millions more than they even think about. And it's not my fight, but it is a fight to save humanity. That is a terrible, let me explain. That is a terrible war that would have never happened. And it didn't happen I even have Democrats. I watched them on Deface the Nation and some of the shows this weekend. And they said, well, we agree that it wouldn't have happened if Trump were president. I was very generous of them.
And that kind of leads me to talk about what's been happening behind the scenes. So Donald Trump Jr., he took to X to call out Zelensky, even though his father has approved a meeting with the troubled president. So in his post, the younger Donald Trump said this about Zelensky's visit to the country, quote, "So a foreign leader who has received billions of dollars in funding from American taxpayers comes to our country and has the nerve to attack the GOP ticket for president? And he does this right after a pro-Ukraine zealot tried to assassinate my father? Disgraceful," end quote. And even he himself had to admit this because he also met up with him, as you guys saw just a minute ago. He's also not smiling, completely opposite to his experience with Governor Shapiro, because he understands that the goal of Donald Trump is different. He wants peace between these countries. Harris and Joe Biden, on the other hand, they're completely supportive of this continuing bloodshed. They want to keep giving Zelensky billions upon billions of dollars. All of that will stop if Donald Trump wins. How much y'all want to bet that I'm right on that, right? And I believe that Zelensky understands this because this is what he said when he was interviewed with the former president.
We need justice. We need justice. It's so important to have justice for the people, especially for the families who lost their children. It's a big tragedy.
President Trump, have you changed your thoughts on how this war should end, what you think should be done, or do you still stand by some of the previous statements?
Well, I learned a lot, but I think I haven't changed from the standpoint that we both want to see this end, and we both want to see a fair deal made, and it's got to be fair, and I think that'll happen at the right time. I think it's going to happen. The president wants it to end, and he wants it to end as quickly as possible. He wants a fair transaction to take place, and I think, right now I'm campaigning, so right now I don't have much to do with it other than we're doing very well in terms of the campaign, and I've been saying that I believe if I win, we're going to have a very fair and I think actually rather rapid deal. It should stop, and the president wants it to stop. And I'm sure President Putin wants it to stop. And that's a good combination. So we want to have a fair deal for everybody.
Now, many people believe that Donald Trump made Zelensky realize that he's going to be in charge soon. And if you looked at this instance between him and the former president, you would see that there was initially a little bit of friction here.
We have a very good relationship. And I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Putin. And I think if we win, I think we're going to get it resolved very quickly. I really think we're going to get it resolved.
I hope we have more good relations.
We're going to have, I see. Yeah, but it takes two to tango, and we're going to have a good meeting today. And I think the fact that we're even together today is a very good sign. And
many point to this exchange and say that, hey, this is what puts Donald Trump above these other leaders. Meanwhile, with the current administration, we have our Middle Eastern ally Israel starting all sorts of wars. The recent headlines show that the Israeli military has closed a stretch of northern Israel along the Lebanese border, and that the nation of Israel is preparing for an imminent invasion of southern Lebanon to take out Hezbollah outposts. And we're not talking days or weeks here, guys. The invasion, which could become the start of a two-front war for Israel, could begin within hours. They say all under the watch of current President Joe Biden. Now, what do you guys think about that? Definitely a tale of two very different parties, if you ask me. More on this and other news that matters to you in our updates, guys. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, have your notification bell turned on so you do not miss it. I've heard some of our community members suddenly being unsubscribed to our YouTube channel. So watch out for that, guys. Make sure you're still subscribed. We don't want anyone interfering with our flow of information here on the channel. Now, speaking of, we have other videos for you to watch after this one. In fact, I did one where we went into the latest Democratic Party scandal. New York City Mayor Eric Adams being charged with bribery and fraud. And it may have been Sean Diddy Combs who snitched on him. Now I'm telling you guys, the Democratic Party is falling apart at the seams, and we got a front seat to the show. So anyway, make sure you guys check that one out right after this one. As always, thank you so much for hitting the like button and subscribing. We'll see you guys next time.